never forget it. I felt so much anxiety. I was so overwhelmed. And as soon as I walked in the door, I started crying. So in Luke chapter 15, Jesus is telling a parable about the prodigal son. And if you've never heard about it, a man has 2 sons, and the younger one comes to him and wants his birthright early. And off he goes. I mean, he has women, money, just living life to the fullest, right? Eventually, the money runs out. There's a famine that falls on the land. He's like the lowest of the low. I mean, he's sleeping with the pigs. He might as well be a pig himself. And he's like, this is miserable. Even the servants in my father's house lived better than this. I will go there and hope for at least the same treatment. He's humbled and begging his dad to give him even the slop for the animals. But his dad is so excited to see him. He tells his servants to make a feast and have a party because his son is home. Of course, his older brother was mad because he's been picking up the slack for the past however long. The father's like, you are welcome to anything that I have. You know that, but we have to celebrate because he was lost and now he's found. He was dead and now he's alive. I'm obviously no theologian. I can't quote the whole Bible off the top of my head. But one thing I do know about is when a prodigal returns. I've spoken freely on this channel about the way I was raised and how it kind of tainted my outlook on God and church, but that doesn't take away from the effort that my parents put into raising me and my sister under God's authority. They may not have had all of the answers, but they were doing the best that they could. And for that, I'm very thankful, because no matter what feelings I had about it, they had us exactly where we needed to be. And we made connections with people who never stopped praying for me, and I will never know how many of those prayers actually saved my life. Anyways, I received the gift of the Holy Ghost at the age of 6 and was baptized soon after. I was on fire for God at a very young age, but I believe that the enemy saw me as a threat and knew that he had to do everything he could to destroy me. He was successful in distancing me from God for a long time. I didn't understand people were just people. God didn't make us perfect. I just didn't get why we had to be so different. I just knew that this is what I had to do, and I couldn't ask any questions, because if I did, then I was gonna get in trouble. And because of that, I began to think that's how God was. Soon, I began to see him as this evil dictator. Eventually, I hated skirts, I hated church, and I hated everything that came with it. I couldn't wait to be set free from the misogynistic oppression that I believed that I was under. So just like the prodigal, I ran the first chance I got. I ran as far as I could, for as long as I could, but when trouble came my way, I knew where to run back to. I came back to church several times, but I still didn't understand what God was all about. And I just saw people acting a certain way, and I thought that if I could act that certain way, I would be changed forever. That wasn't the case, and I still was wanting to do the things that I was trying to set myself free from. But that was the issue. I was trying to do it myself. The last time I left, I thought I would never be back. The enemy had such a hold on my heart. I felt sorry for the people who were in church. I pitied them because they had wasted so much time and money believing that God could change people. I repented. I'm reading the Bible. Why am I not different? I gave up. It must have been impossible, right? I turned my back on everything I knew, and I went down the road of spirituality and witchcraft. I began to open doors to the demonic realm I had no idea about. This passion that I had for a new age, the willingness to give money to tarot card readers and buy books and donate to gurus that were supposedly helping me figure out what my purpose was for being here. It was out of this world. Let me just say, I thought that I was helping people. I thought this was my passion, what I was supposed to do with my life. It's help usher people into enlightenment. But the more that I learned, the darker my life got, the more depressed I was, the more angry I was, the more I compromised what little morals I had left. I was surrounded by darkness all the time. I was so fearful every day. I couldn't eat, I couldn't sleep. I was having these crazy dreams that I woke up in sweat. But slowly but surely, I began to realize this was not what I thought it was. At the time, I couldn't tell you what, but something was leading me out from under the haze that I had put myself in. As I was pulling away, I could feel the enemy get his claws deeper and deeper inside of me. I was suffocating in darkness, surrounded by demonic activity so much that when I would try to sleep, I could feel things brushing up against me. I could see shadows from the corners of my eyes. I was being tormented, but God saw me. He snatched me up out of the darkness. He was there the whole time, just waiting for me to call out to him. I didn't even know how to pray. I just was begging him, Lord, please, I'm sorry. I know I've messed up. I know I'm not worthy to even say your name, but please, if you're there, protect me and Carson from whatever is going on in this house. And he did. But I'll never forget the conversation that he allowed me to be a part of when the spirits realized that I was no longer on their side, and it changed my life forever. I would love to say that after that moment, my life was perfect and I sobered up. I started going to church and I lived happily ever after, but that was not the case. It was a long road ahead until that would happen. But I knew God was real and my faith was restored. Church hurt that I felt was still so prevalent. I never wanted to go back. So I read and I prayed and I watched church online. And slowly, God was changing me from the inside this time. If this is blessing you, please like the video and consider subscribing. God has blessed me with so many more videos that I would hate for you to miss. I began to learn about his character, about how much he truly loved me, but how much he also loved my enemies, and how I should do the same. I learned about how if I don't forgive others, he can't forgive me. And I learned about ways we give demons legal rights to torment us, and how important the armor of God is. I was rereading the stories I learned in Kids World. I was getting so full, but my kids weren't. They didn't like e-learning about Jesus, okay? They couldn't focus on the lessons. Of course, we read the Bible, but they just couldn't really wrap their heads around what was being talked about. Let me just tell you, I am not the greatest teacher in the world, okay? And then every week when I would turn on my Transformation Church service, Pastor Mike Todd would be like, somebody watching this right now should be going to church in their own town. And I was like, that ain't me. But each week, I would feel more and more convicted. I didn't want to go to the sanctuary. Yes, they taught me so much as a kid, but the people are judgmental. I'm not wearing a skirt every day. And there were so many things on my list that I did not want to have to deal with by going there. But God was like, is it worth disobeying me? Are you going to church for the people or for me? It's been almost a year since I walked in that building again, and I'll never forget it. I felt so much anxiety. I was so overwhelmed, and as soon as I walked in the door, I started crying. I remember seeing Sylvia and Megan, and they were like worried about me because I just was sobbing, but I was so overwhelmed by how tangible the presence of God was. And it had been so long since I had been able to experience that. I just cried. People kept telling me how long it had been since they last saw me and how they never thought they'd ever see me again, and so many other just off-putting comments. I had to fight my flesh to not want to walk out the door, but my spirit felt at home, and I just prayed to ask God to help me to get through the service. I was there for him. I didn't care what other people said. I had asked him to help me forgive the people who had said such weird comments to me, because they were just expressing their excitement and they just didn't understand how off-putting and backhanded the things that they were saying sounded to me. I had to fight through my flesh to not tell every person who tried to pray for me that even though I haven't been coming to this church for a long time, I am closer to God than I've ever been, and you might do well with some prayers for me also. But week after week, I kept coming. I didn't care about the comments. I was there for God, and he was there. He met me there every week. And again, I'd love to say that after I walked in those doors, my whole life changed and I lived happily ever after, but once again, that was not the case. I still had so much baggage and hurt, addictions, and soul ties to work through, and still do. In this walk with him this time, the most important thing that I'm realizing is that I don't have to do it by myself. It's not my willpower that keeps me sober and keeps me practicing holiness and doing all of the things that I never thought that I would ever do. It's his. The times I fail are when I try to take it on to myself to keep myself righteous, when I'm not submitting to his perfect will. He's changed my perspective on so much, changed my heart, and made me a whole new person. I've never had more joy or felt more freedom than I do right now. It's like the whole world has been lifted off of my shoulders. I've had times where I've got it wrong and when I've got it right. Times where I've needed to apologize and when I've had to forgive without an apology given. I've been sober, relapsed, and started over, and one thing's for certain, God was with me. And I've never let anyone else dictate my salvation and whether or not I would be at church, besides my children being sick, of course, but me. So to the prodigal out there searching for meaning, thinking that the people at church are going to judge you and God is mad at you, you're wrong. You're not too far gone. Heaven is more excited over one lost soul coming home than 99 righteous people who don't have to. I pray that you don't have to go to the depths of darkness that I did, but if you do, there's no shadow He won't light up coming after you. I hope this encouraged someone who's praying for their lost loved ones, because it took me 22 years to get to where I'm at today. I believe in this time we're going to see more people coming back to God than we ever have before. Treat them kindly. Don't remind them how long it's been since you've seen them a million times. One time is fine. Be sensitive. They're already beating themselves up. They probably have taken months to build up enough courage to walk through those doors. Don't make it worse. Okay? I hope this encouraged someone with church hurt to revisit the thought of coming back to a church. Don't let other people put a bad taste in your mouth about God. We're all just trying to do our best, no matter what it looks like on the outside. That's all I have. Thank you for watching. God bless.